Hi, my name's Mel and welcome back to my channel Bookish Brummie. So we're very nearly at the end of October now, and tomorrow I will be posting my final video for the month where I reveal whether or not I got through my whole to be read pile that I set myself at the beginning of the month. However, I'm not really one who likes to set myself a rigid TBR list. I'm a bit of a mood reader, to be honest, and I've really enjoyed the last month working through that set TBR pile, but also while that month has been going on, I've been picking up other books and I think, I really like to read them, and feeling like I can't because I have to get through the set TBR list. So I thought this video would be good to discuss how basically I might approach November. And I'm thinking in November I'm going to do a lot more mood reading, but there will still be some parameters set around what I might read. And this is because throughout this year I've been doing a reading challenge where I have to hit certain points. So some of you might be doing this. So for example, a point might be I need to read a book that was released in 2020, I need to read a book that was released in the year 2025, I need to read a book that's got a colour in the title, I need to read a book that was written prior to the 21st century. I need to read a book that's got 3 words in the title. So of that reading list there were 100 different points that I had to try and hit, and I've done pretty well this year. I think that when you first start it's obviously quite easy because most of the books that you pick up you'll just hit off the easier points. Like the title has 2 words, the title has 3 words, the title has the name of the character in it and things like that, so that's much easier to achieve. But we've got to the point in the year now where I've got 2 months left and I've got 15 points left on this list that I need to get in order to complete the reading challenge. Now I don't know where I got this reading challenge from. I obtained it somewhere on the internet, couldn't tell you where because it was so long ago, but I've actually changed the list to suit my needs and I've actually expanded the list. I think this list was probably about 70 books to begin with, and then I expanded it out to 100. Now I will be doing a new list for 2026 and I've almost written the points for that, and that will be one that I've completely written myself. So we'll talk about that before 2026 starts, and then if you also want to use the list you can, because I'll print off what all the points are going to be. And it's quite fun. I find that it directs your reading, so you're not just constantly reading the same thing or from the same author, and I feel like that's made me get through the books that I have a bit easier. But it's also made me go out to the library and get a couple of books to fulfill a couple of criteria that I might not have done before. So I'm just going to put up on the screen now what the points are that I'm still yet to hit. So you can see there's some that should be easy to hit, but there's, what have we got on there? Sci-fi. That's easy, just pick up a sci-fi book and read it. The banned book list, which is quite an interesting one. I've not yet completed that, but I have the book ready to do that. I've got the book ready to complete the one that's released in the year 2000. There's a couple of others that I'm finding a little bit more difficult, like main character works in IT. This is not the easiest to find a main character that works in IT. I finally tracked down the Neuromancer, where the character works in IT, but that's not kind of what I'm feeling about reading at the moment. But I will obviously get around to reading it hopefully before the end of the year to complete this challenge. However, there's a couple of harder ones on there. So enemies to lovers trope. I'm not really into romance novels. They're not my favourite thing. And I don't really like the enemies to lovers trope, so I feel like that's going to be one of the harder ones for us to complete. Romance, again, I'm going to have to go out of my way. I don't think that really exists too much in my reading pile. And Second Chance DNF did not finish, because to be honest, if I didn't finish it the first time I read it, I'm not sort of motivated to try and read it again, so I'm going to have to really look through some books. I do have a couple that have got like bookmarks in from where I've abandoned them, so I just need to look at them and assess, why did I stop reading them? Did I stop reading them because I just sort of got involved in doing something else and forgot about the book, or did I stop reading the book because I really wasn't enjoying it? In the former I'm more likely to pick the book up and read it again if I just got distracted doing something else, so don't expect me to probably be doing that in the next month because I'm not going to be. But yeah, so I'm going to kind of try and read around the parameters of this list because I've got most of the books required in order to finish this list. So that will be good if I can do that. But I've also bought some new books recently, and I've just got some that have been sitting in my reading pile for a while that I want to get round to as well. So I thought we would just talk about a few of them so you can get an idea of what I might be reading within the next month, and then you can sort of decide whether or not really that interests you, and if you'd like to come back and see the weekly updates that we'll have on that. So let me start. For starters, we've got Holly by Stephen King. Now, I did mention this at the beginning of the month because Holly was not included in the TBR pile because it didn't really seem right. I felt like I should include some of Stephen King's actual horrors rather than his sort of crime thriller, and Holly is a crime thriller. The Holly Gibney character is born in the Mr. Mercedes book, and then there's another 3 books, there's 3 or 4 books, and then there's a short story, and then we've got Holly. And then after Holly we've got Never Flinch. She turns up in that book as well. So I'm up at the point now, I finished the short story in If It Bleeds, and now I'm ready to read Holly, and I'm really enjoying the Holly character, so I really can't wait to get back to this. So this is quite high likelihood that I'm going to read this within the next month and want to talk about it. I'll carry on in the Stephen King vein for now because, as we all know, I'm quite a Stephen King fan. I'd like to read The Dead Zone quite soon. I posted last night a summary on Cujo, and I'd found out that the character from The Dead Zone actually does appear as a character that was in Derry, Maine in Cujo. So somehow it's linked in that world somehow. So I feel like I do want to get around to reading this, and it looks like a good story anyway. So I'll just read a little bit on the back. It says, waking up from a 5-year coma after a car accident, former school teacher Johnny Smith discovers that he can see people's futures and pasts when he touches them. Many consider his talent a gift, but Johnny feels cursed. His fiancée has met someone else and people are clamouring for him to solve their problems. When Johnny has a disturbing vision after he shakes the hand off an ambitious and amoral politician, he must decide if he should take drastic action to change the future. So this is probably a bit paranormal, and it comes under the iconic Chiller section in the Ultimate Storyteller series. So I'm probably going to read that soon as well. I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, I've got Needful Things by Stephen King, which I've had for a couple of months, and I'm absolutely dying to get into this one as well. This one comes from the epic thriller section, which is the same section as like where It came from as well. The good news with this one is that this would come under the Amazon recommended point that I need to tick off. So I was quite pleased about that they recommended me that, because I thought, well, that's any that's just the justification that I need to hit that point on the list and read this book. So this one, as I understand it, is about a shop that opens in a town, and it gives everybody exactly what they need. But I feel like this stretches beyond needing a pair of rubber gloves or a cucumber or a packet of crisps or a beer. So yeah, hopefully going to be reading that one soon as well. So okay, it's not all about Stephen King. I know I say this on many videos and then we often discuss Stephen King, but I really do rate him as an author. But there are a couple of other things that I'm really looking forward to reading as well. So we've got Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which is a dystopian novel, and this actually would fulfil the point of from the banned books list. So this is, I mean, there is no one specific banned books list, but when I looked at multiple banned books list in America, this book seemed to be on it quite a lot. So I want to get around to that. I'm also really enjoying dystopian novels at the moment, so this is just a thing. The next one is The Safekeep by Yael van der Wooden. Now this would cover off Women's Prize for Fiction winner. Now I have technically read a Women's Prize for Fiction winner earlier this year when I read Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, but I chose not to include that against the Women's Prize for Fiction winner point because I listed it under Pulitzer Prize winner, which was another point which Demon Copperhead was. So yeah, we're going to be reading this, and we're going to have to be reading this within the next 2 weeks because this is also my book club's chosen book club book for this month. So yeah, I've got to read this in the next 2 weeks. I've been wanting to get into sci-fi. So sci-fi is not really a genre that I've read too much in. In fact, I think I've barely read anything. But I do have a point on that list which says to read a sci-fi book. So I've decided to start with Isaac Asimov, Nightfall, which is a book of short stories, which are all sci-fi. Now, Isaac Asimov is supposed to be one of the greats in the sci-fi genre, so hopefully I'm starting with the right person. I really couldn't really say much about this book. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy sci-fi. I quite enjoy some elements of fantasy, and fantasy and sci-fi often get lumped together. So yeah, hopefully I'll enjoy this. I did used to enjoy, when I was younger, books that kind of investigated the steampunk sort of genre. So, you know, maybe this won't be too far off of that. We'll see. So here's another one that I'm actually really looking forward to. So this is called When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm really sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But earlier this year I read Never Let Me Go by him, and it was such an amazing book. I am still thinking about it now. It lives rent-free in my head, and I definitely wanted to read more from this author. And this author is actually a Nobel Prize winner for fiction. And you know, after what I read in Never Let Me Go, I don't doubt it, but he actually has quite a few other books that I'd like to get around to reading. I've chosen this one specifically as the next read because this was published in the year 2000, so it would cover off that point of a 2000 release. So I'll just read you a little bit at the back of this one so you can get a sense of what this is about. So in England in the 1930s, Christopher Banks has become the country's most celebrated detective. His case is the talk of London society. Yet one unsolved crime has always haunted him, the mysterious disappearance of his parents in old Shanghai, when he was a small boy. Moving between London and Shanghai of the interwar years when we were orphans is a remarkable story of memory, intrigue and the need to return. So I kind of like the fact that it spans across 2 different continents as well, so that should be really interesting. Really looking forward to that. And then to some books that I don't think are going to cover off any point, but I just really want to read them, is Dead Man's Blues by Ray Celestin. Now, I discovered Ray Celestin probably about 2 months ago, and I read a book of his called The Axeman's Jazz, which is set at the beginning of the 20th century in downtown New Orleans in the jazz and prohibition era. And the first book was kind of historical fiction because there was actually a serial killer called the Axeman who was terrorising the place. So there's obviously fictional characters in here, but they're trying to like track down a serial killer that actually did exist. But the way that it was written was absolutely fantastic, and I really got a sense of, you know, the jazz scene, New Orleans, just the way everybody was dressed, and I really, you know, it was absolutely wonderful. I'd give that book like a 5-star, and I was absolutely delighted to find that it is actually the beginning of a series. So there are 4 books in the series, and this is the second one. Now there's a bit of a time delay. This one is set a little bit later in, I think this is the 1930s, and this one actually includes like Al Capone in it, so we've sort of got the mob involved now. And again, there's going to be another murderer, serial killer that they're going to have to try and find. But if this is written anything like the first one, I can't wait to read this one. So. Then I also have Roald Dahl Deception. So I was out book shopping in Foyles the other week, and I remember hearing that Roald Dahl had written some books for adults. Now as a child I read probably all of his books and I really enjoyed him, and I didn't know that he wrote adult novels until not that long ago. And apparently he's very good at horror and thriller style short stories. And there's quite a few books that you can pick from where he's got these short stories collected, but I've chosen this one, Deception, because there's quite a famous story in here about a lamb chop, a frozen lamb chop, and some people were talking about it in my book group as well. So I thought actually I'm going to pick this one up, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Actually, I've been very tempted to start reading it after I bought it, and I thought no, I need to carry on with the reading list that I'd already set for spooky season. But yeah, really looking forward to this. And well, not exactly finally, there's a couple more to discuss, but we've also got The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. I really can't wait to get into this. I will talk about Interview with the Vampire more in tomorrow's video when I do my weekly roundup, because that was one of the last books I was reading for this last week. But it was absolutely stunning, and I know I'm at the beginning of a 13 book series with that, but it doesn't bother me. I'm really excited to move on to this one. And again, this is one that I actually bought the other day specifically after I read Interview with the Vampire, and I wanted to start reading it immediately on the train home, and I had to stop myself because I had to finish reading the book that I was already on. So yeah, those are some books that I've got sitting around that I do need to read, some of them in order to hit the points off the list, but I actually really want to read them as well. And then there's a couple of others I just really want to read, like Holly, because I'm really into the Holly Gibney character and I just want to see that through to the end. But there is one other. Now, I'm not sure that I'm going to read this in this month, because I'm not sure I'm going to have time with all the other ones that I want to read. But I have recently received my subscription book for October from Goldsborough Books, which was Joe Hill's King Sorrow. Just look at how beautiful this book is. It's an absolute massive book, not quite as big as it, but it's getting there. And this is fantasy horror from what I can tell, and I thought the story looked really interesting. Now, I know that I wasn't totally enamoured with Heart-Shaped Box that I'd read of Joe Hill's during my October reads, but that was the very first novel that he ever wrote, and this is obviously the latest one, and he's had quite a few in between, so I'm going to assume that he has got a lot better, and I'm actually quite excited for this. So I'm hoping to get through this before the end of the year. That would be ideal. And then finally, one that I think I'm going to be almost reading immediately, and I don't have a copy of it yet, I'm hoping to get a copy of it in a couple of days, is the third book in the Book of Dust by Philip Pullman, which is called The Rose Field. So that is a series that's been following Lyra. Now, this series came out when I was about 10 years old, and then I think I started reading it when I was about 16 or 17 years old, and it started with the 3 books, His Dark Materials, which were the Northern Lights, the Subtle Knife, and the Amber Spyglass, and I absolutely loved those. I thought they were brilliant, and I thought that had ended and finished, and I was delighted to discover at the beginning of this year that he'd actually gone on and written two called The Book of Dust, which one of the books, which is called La Belle Sauvage, that one is set before the Northern Lights trilogy starts. And then there is the second Book of Dust, which I can't remember what that one is called, but that one's set after the Northern Lights. And then this third one, The Rose Field, is the conclusion to the Book of Dust trilogy. So essentially we will have had 2 trilogies following Lyra and her life. And I thought she was a brilliant character. When I got hold of the other 2 at the beginning of this year, I actually listened to them on Audible. Because I was reading so many other things, so I thought, well, I just want to get them, I want to catch up with them so that I can read The Rose Field when it comes out. And I have to admit, the narrator for those 2 books was absolutely fantastic. I think he's one of my favourite narrators of all time. His ability to do multiple different accents and voices of different characters and make them sound completely different is just brilliant. Like, it's absolutely brilliant, and it made it a really great experience. So yeah, I'm all caught up with that now, so I'm ready to read The Rose Field. And to be honest, I will read The Rose Field, the physical book, but I will probably also buy the audiobook for that if it's the same narrator narrating it, just because he makes it such a brilliant experience. So as you can see, this alone, I have quite high expectations of myself if I'm going to get through all of these, and then also have like quite a few other points on that list to read before the end of the year. But what I'd like to do is maybe do some other challenge for December, similar to like the spooky challenge that I've done in October. But as I say, I just sort of want a bit more freedom to read what I want to read for a little bit through November, while still sticking within some parameters. Now, I've got quite a varied taste in books, because in here we've got sci-fi, we've got dystopian, we've got horror, we've got thriller, we've got literary fiction. So there's quite a range there, and I thought it would be really good if we just had a little look at that, so you can decide if you're interested in coming along to the weekly catch-ups that we're going to have in November. I will still probably post summary videos as well. Now, I don't know if they will remain to be Stephen King or if I will post some other summary videos of other books that I've read as well. But I find that the Stephen King ones, I'm enjoying doing those at the moment, and I feel like it would be good for me to look back on those when I try to do an overall rating when I've read them all, because it will remind me what I actually thought of all of those books, because obviously he's written so many books that trying to remember exactly what you thought about each one when it comes to doing a rating of them all is probably going to be quite difficult, because actually rating that many books, the margin between them is going to be tiny. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing those Stephen King ones, but I might do some other ones of other books that I've read as well if I feel like it warrants it. Like potentially I could do, I don't know, like a series book maybe, or even like King Sorrow. It is so large that that actually might warrant a good summary video when I get around to that. But if you've got any, you know, if you'd like to see a summary of any of the books that I've just shown now, just let me know in the comments, because then maybe I can do a separate video doing a summary of that. I quite enjoy doing them. So yeah. So last night I posted a video doing a summary of Cujo. So if you're interested, like if you've read Cujo and you'd like to see what I thought of it, then by all means go and look at that video. I have done that video because I find that quite a scary Stephen King. So if you are looking for a book specifically for Friday for Halloween, I totally recommend Cujo, because I think it's about one of the only books that I've ever read that actually did scare me. And then on Friday, tomorrow, we're going to have the final end of month review to see how I've fared with my TBR book list, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about some of the stats regarding that if you'd like to join me. So yeah, I hope to see you next week where we can look at some books that I've just displayed here that I've read, and we'll have a bit of a catch up. So I hope you have a good weekend, and I will see you tomorrow on the review video. Thank you, bye!